Flying to Milan with the girls, my wife texted. I replied, cool. Divorce papers will be ready. She called me heartless, stormed out, and threatened court. Then everyone at the court witnessed her meltdown. Hey Reddit, my wife said she was flying to Milan for a girls' trip. I said, cool. Divorce papers will be waiting when you land. But that was just the start. Before it all short-circuited, let me take you back to how the wires really crossed. The attic was a furnace. I was elbow deep in a junction box, sweat dripping onto insulation, when my phone buzzed in my pocket. I pulled it out, half expecting a client or my apprentice asking where the 3/4 fittings were. Instead, it was a text from my wife. Flying to Milan with the girls. 1 week. Don't wait up. I stared at it long enough for the phone to dim. My thumb hovered. I could have asked questions. Who, when, why? But honestly, I was past the point of curiosity. I typed back, cool. Divorce papers will be ready. Wi-Fi works overseas. Then I hit send and went back to tightening the wire nut. Yep, that's me. You're probably wondering how I ended up in this situation. Let me rewind a bit. My name's Connor, 34. I run my own small HVAC and electrical business in Cedar Ridge. It's not glamorous, but it pays for the mortgage, tools, and the occasional weekend fishing trip with my nephew. We kept finances simple. The business sits in an LLC carved out by a prenup. We had a joint household account for the mortgage and groceries, and we each kept separate personal accounts. My wife, well, soon-to-be ex-wife, is Sabrina. She's 32, works in PR, always networking and building relationships, which started sounding more like excuses than achievements after a while. We've been married 8 years. The first 6 were normal. Then last year, something changed. It started small. Missed dinners, vague girls' nights, her phone lighting up at 1 a.m. under the pillow. At first, I told myself people change. Maybe she was just busy. You want to trust your spouse. It's basic wiring. But then it got weird. She started locking the bathroom door to take calls. Once, I walked by and heard her whispering, "I can't talk right now," followed by a full minute of silence. When she came out, she said it was a client. I asked which one. She said, "You don't know them," and changed the subject. Another time, she said she was with her friend Claire. Claire posted a story that night. Wine glass, blanket, her cat, home alone. Meanwhile, Sabrina texted me a photo of a random restaurant appetizer and said, "Girls' night." Wrong background, different lighting. Like she grabbed it off Google. Then came the networking weekends. Supposedly out of town for team building. I checked the company calendar. No event listed. When she got back, there was a faint handprint on her thigh. I wish I was making that up. The fights got louder. She accused me of spying when I asked normal questions like what hotel she stayed at. Once, she threw her charger across the room and screamed, "You're suffocating me," because I'd asked why she was gone till 3 a.m. Her phone was always face down, always silent. One night it buzzed, and I caught the preview. No name, just "can't wait." She grabbed it before I could even blink, said it was a meme from a friend. Then she deleted the whole thread. When a connection arcs, you smell the ozone before anything burns. I could smell it all over the house. At work, I kept my head down. I've got 2 guys on payroll. Hector's 24, mouth faster than his drill. Miguel's 49, steady hands, steady marriage. We were rewiring an office building when another text came in. Might be late, having drinks with coworkers. No name, no group photo, just nothing. Hector saw my face. That the wife again? Yeah. She's wild lately, huh? Something like that. Miguel looked over his glasses. Sometimes people shake the ladder to see if you'll fall. I'm done climbing, I said. Now I just take notes. That night, I started a file on my phone called LOG. Nothing emotional, just timestamps and receipts. Out 9:30 p.m., return 2:17 a.m. claim traffic. Missed call 12:08 a.m., said she didn't hear it. Phone at 98% battery. 2 nights later, she said she was at a launch dinner. I drove by her office around 9. Dark. Every car gone. 10 minutes later, I got a text. Still working. I didn't respond. I just added a line to the log. The next week, she came home wearing new earrings I hadn't seen before and smelling like someone else's cologne. Something musky, expensive. She tossed her keys like she was testing how far she could push me. "You're awfully quiet lately," she said. "Yeah," I said. "Listening burns less energy than guessing." She laughed too loud. "You need a hobby, Connor. You make everything into an investigation." I didn't answer. Then came the late-night gym bag that stayed in her trunk, the random Venmo charges labeled dinner, the sudden "don't wait up" texts. It wasn't paranoia anymore. It was math. When you do electrical work, you learn to find the source. If something keeps tripping the breaker, you don't blame the light. You check what's drawing power it shouldn't. So I started tracing the line. I stayed polite, quiet, steady. She thought silence meant ignorance. Really, it meant preparation. Then came that attic job. Late afternoon, sun baking the shingles, insulation sticking to my arms. Phone buzzed. Flying to Milan with the girls. That was it. The last data point I needed. The leak had become a short circuit. I didn't feel sad, just done. The kind of done that doesn't make noise. I figured I'd get silence, maybe a dramatic paragraph later. Instead, I got a full-blown storm. First came 5 missed calls in a row, then a voicemail that started calm and ended in shouting. A few minutes later, a text from a new number. "Are you kidding me right now? Connor, stop ignoring me." Then one from her mom. "Sabrina says you're threatening divorce. What's going on?" I didn't respond. I tightened the last junction, cleaned up the attic, and drove to my next job like nothing happened. When I checked my phone again, I had 27 notifications, calls, messages, even a voicemail from one of her friends saying, "You need to calm down, man. She's just on a trip." That night, she tried again. "We need to talk before I leave. You're acting insane. You're not yourself." I let them all sit unread. I'd already said everything in one sentence. Silence was the only language she wasn't fluent in. Later that day, she showed up in the kitchen already dressed for work, suitcase half packed by the door. She didn't say hi, didn't ask how I was, just, "Are you really doing this?" Over a text? "I'm doing it over a pattern," I said. Her eyes rolled so hard it looked painful. "You've completely lost it. Then it shouldn't bother you," I said. She stood there, silent for a beat, then turned toward the counter. "What's the Wi-Fi password?" "I can't connect." I didn't even look up. "Changed it." "You what?" "Changed it," I repeated. "Business network," I said. "The house Wi-Fi's the same. Use the guest network. And the joint account stays funded." "For what reason?" "Security." "Security?" She laughed, sharp and fake. "You think I'm stealing your memes?" "Just locking things down before you go," I said. "You're unbelievable. You're trying to punish me." "No, I'm making sure the house runs how it should." She huffed, walked to the living room, and FaceTimed one of her friends. "Guys, tell him this is crazy," she said, spinning the camera. Two faces appeared, wine glasses, smirks, the usual peanut gallery. I leaned against the counter, arms crossed, watching her stage her defense like a school play. "You're being insane, Connor," she said, waving the phone around. "We have friends watching this, by the way." "Perfect," I said. "Now it's documented." She stared at me, speechless, then hung up mid-call. "You're impossible," she said, voice trembling between anger and disbelief. "Write it down," I said. Her jaw clenched. She slammed the bedroom door so hard a picture frame rattled off the hallway wall. I went to my office, opened my phone, and typed in the log, theatrics at 8:41 p.m. Then I checked my bank app and moved the last transfer I'd parked for bills back to the business account. The household account already had the month's bills covered. I logged the transfer for payroll and vendor invoices. I wasn't being vindictive, I was being responsible. She still had full access to her personal account, and the joint household account stayed funded. The house was quiet after that. Just the steady hum of the air handler and the faint tick of the thermostat. 72 degrees, perfectly balanced. That same night after the attic text, I drove home, showered, reheated leftovers, and sat on the couch scrolling through my call history. I found an old contact card from months ago. Jack Vance, private investigator. I picked up the card, dialed the number. When the voicemail beeped, I said, "Hi, this is Connor. Got your card from a mutual client. Need some help verifying travel details." Nothing crazy, just clarity. We met that morning. 2 days later, she left for Milan. He looked exactly how you'd picture a man who spends his days watching other people's lives unravel. Gray jacket, plain watch, notebook instead of a laptop. He sat in a booth facing the door, eyes steady. "Connor, right?" he said. "Yeah." He flipped open the notebook. "Tell me what you need." "No drama," I said. "Just timestamps. Where she goes, who she's with. I don't need guesses, I need patterns." He jotted notes in short, neat handwriting. "She's already gone?" "Not yet. She leaves in 2 days. Milan. Week long." He nodded once. "Discreet? As the job allows." He closed the notebook halfway. "You want updates live or batch? Whatever's faster. I'm not building a movie, I just want truth I can hold." He nodded again, stood, left a couple dollars for the waitress, and walked out. No handshake, no pitch, just quiet competence. Back home, I kept my hands busy. Checked the fuses, sorted invoices, replaced an old outlet cover in the hallway. Everything about it felt cleaner than conversation ever did. When you work with current, you learn it's not about control. It's about limits. You don't force energy where it doesn't belong. You isolate it, label it, move on. That afternoon, I went back to work. Changed out a thermostat, fixed a shorted outlet, tuned a heat pump. Simple systems, predictable outcomes. Machines tell you when something's wrong. People pretend. Hector looked up from a coil of wire. "So, boss, she's gone?" "Yeah." "She texting you?" "Nope." "Good," he said, smirking. Voltage dropped. Miguel chuckled from across the room. "Peace and quiet have their own current." "Feels that way," I said. By evening, the shop was closed, the truck was parked, and the house finally felt like it belonged to one person again. I heated up leftover pasta, sat at the counter, and listened to the hum of the fridge. My phone buzzed once. Unknown number. "Vance. Got a lead. You'll want to see this. Formal report to follow." I saved the number under his name. I stared at it for a few seconds, then typed back, "Send it." I leaned back in the chair, eyes on the kitchen light, the hum of steady current filling the room. Whatever was coming, at least it would finally be real. 3 days after Sabrina's flight, Vance texted, "Report ready. Lunch at 1?" We met at the same diner. He slid a manila envelope across the table. No words, no smile. Inside were 6 printed photos and a short report, all timestamps neat and clear. The first photo, Sabrina at a small cafe downtown, hair tied up, smiling across the table at a tall guy in his late 30s. Company SUV parked behind him with a logo on the door. Something about logistics. The next few photos were at different places. Lunch spots, gym parking lots, coffee runs. Same man every time. "They meet 3, maybe 4 times a week," Vance said. "Not handsy, but there's rhythm, familiarity." I flipped through the stack, each one worse than the last. She wasn't careless. No touching, no posing, but you could tell. The lean-in posture, the smile that lingered too long, the way her eyes stayed locked on him while she stirred her drink. Vance pointed to one picture. That was the day before she left. Travel agency on 5th and Jefferson. They picked up a Milan packet together. He paid cash for the agency fees, and he'd already run the airfare on a corporate card. I nodded, sliding the photos back into the envelope. How recent? 2 days before her flight. Copy, I said. He gave a small nod. You want me to keep tracking while she's out? Until she lands back here, I said. I want the full picture. Back at home, I slid Vance's prints into a clear binder and wrote, in black Sharpie, Reality, Volume 1. No shaking hands, no yelling. Just clean lines, printed timestamps, and evidence that didn't argue back. That afternoon, while I was eating, my phone buzzed. Sabrina. Need space to realign. I stared at it for a second and replied, take all the space you need. I'm not measuring it. No response. I went back to work, finished a service call, replaced a bad circuit board, and forgot about it until evening. That night, Hector sent me a screenshot from Instagram. Dude, he wrote, isn't this your wife? It was a photo of Sabrina and 2 of her friends in an airport lounge. Caption, girls trip begins. The angle was tight, her face front and center, background cropped to a blur. I didn't reply to Hector, just forwarded the post to Vance with one line. Get me the wide shot. 20 minutes later, my phone buzzed again. Vance. Not live. Pulled from a lounge staffer who'd snapped a wider shot the same minute. Check your email, 3rd attachment. I opened it. Same setting, same outfit. The staffer's wide shot Vance forwarded. She was standing beside the tall guy from the cafe. Their bags side by side, her hand tucked under his arm. The gate sign above them read, Milan, Flight 782. Vance had circled it in red. For a few seconds, I just stared at the screen. It wasn't surprise, it was confirmation. All those little cracks I'd logged were now one straight fracture. I forwarded the email to her parents, Frank and Lydia, and typed one line. I just wanted you to know before she tells her version. Then I hit send. The next morning, Frank called. He didn't sound angry, just tired. Connor, we got your email? Are you sure about this? I'm not guessing, I said. He exhaled slowly. She said it was a work connection, a client. That's all she told us. I'm sure that's what she'll keep saying, I said. Check your inbox. You'll see the timestamps. He paused. All right, we'll handle our side. I hung up and went back to my truck. Notebook open, checking service calls like it was any other day. By noon, Vance texted again. She checked into a hotel in Milan. Same guy. Shared taxi from airport. Want details? Document everything. Don't contact her. Understood. That night, I sat at my kitchen counter with the binder open in front of me. 6 photos, 1 report, 1 airline confirmation. The facts were clean. No room for stories or moods. My phone buzzed again. Vance, flight confirmed. Milan. 2 passengers. I read it twice, closed the binder, and set it down beside my coffee mug. The house was quiet, steady hum from the air vents. Everything running the way it should. The only short circuit left was 4,000 miles away. The next morning, I made a list. It wasn't long, just a few tasks to reset the house. Step 1, clear her side of the closet. Step 2, repaint the bedroom. Step 3, drop everything she owned at her parents' place. I started with the closet. It was like cleaning out a stranger's space. Shoes I'd never seen, outfits I didn't remember buying, perfume bottles that smelled like someone else's idea of happiness. I boxed them neatly, labeled each one, and stacked them by the door. By noon, I'd moved to the bedroom. The wall behind the headboard still had faint outlines where pictures had hung. I rolled over them with a neutral color. Something light, clean, unremarkable. The kind of color that doesn't hold a memory. When I was done, I stood back, hands on hips, and realized the silence in the room finally felt like rest, not tension. I loaded the boxes into the truck that afternoon. The drive to her parents' house took 15 minutes. Frank and Lydia's place looked exactly the same as always. Neat lawn, same porch swing, the kind of normal that doesn't ask questions. Frank opened the door before I knocked. He saw the boxes and nodded once. You sure? I'm sure, I said. He stepped aside. Leave them in the den. We'll sort it. Lydia came into view, wiping her hands on a towel. She doesn't know? She'll figure it out, I said. They didn't try to talk me out of it. I appreciated that. When I got home, the house felt bigger, half empty but peaceful. The kind of quiet you earn. The next few days went back to routine. I kept my schedule full. 3 jobs a day, nothing complicated. Replaced a thermostat for a retired teacher who insisted on paying in cash. Fixed a bad outlet at a diner where the owner kept apologizing for the coffee. Normal people with normal problems. Predictable, honest work. Every job felt like a reset. I'd show up, fix what was broken, make sure it was safe, and leave. No drama, no guessing, no games. On the 3rd day, an email came in. From her. You're overreacting. You're killing something good. I read it once and closed the laptop. There wasn't anything worth replying to. That night, I was replacing an old ceiling fan in the garage. My phone buzzed again. Vance. Final batch coming through. A minute later, the files hit my inbox. Same format. Time-stamped photos, short notes. First shot, her at a restaurant patio, hair curled, laughing with the same man from before. Second, hotel lobby check-in, both of them signing papers at the counter. Third, morning coffee, her in sunglasses, leaning across the table, his hand on hers. No dramatics, no hotel nonsense, just quiet, routine betrayal. I saved the photos to the folder, closed the laptop, and went back to tightening the fan bracket. Hector called while I was still working. Boss, you ever take a break? This is the break, I said. He laughed. You're something else, man. Maybe. Or maybe I just stopped wasting voltage where it didn't flow back. Thursday night, I slept hard and woke early to make coffee. No noise, no phone buzzing. The house was still, sunlight coming through clean walls. For the first time in months, it didn't smell like perfume or tension, just coffee and paint. I sat at the counter, looked at the binder on the table, and thought about how simple everything had become. She'd spend her week building stories. I spent mine building facts. When I checked my phone again, one more text from Vance had come through overnight. Surveillance complete. Patterns consistent. Ending assignment. I typed back, appreciate it. Invoice when ready. I poured another cup of coffee, leaned back in the chair, and listened to the steady hum of the fridge. Her story kept changing. Mine stayed connected. Vance texted early Friday morning. Return flight confirmed. She's alone. Different return. Separate itineraries. Landing 3:40 p.m. No mention of the man, just her. I called Frank around noon. She'll be home today, I said. He sighed through the phone. You want us there? Yes. 5 o'clock. I'll have everything ready. He paused. We'll come. By 4, the living room was quiet. The folder sat on the coffee table, binder next to it, pages aligned like an inspection sheet. The house smelled like coffee and clean air. Nothing left of her perfume. At 4:57, her parents arrived. Frank wore that calm face men use when they're about to do something hard. Lydia looked like she hadn't slept. They hadn't told her they'd already seen the photos. 5:12 p.m. The sound of a car door slamming. Then heels on concrete. She came in fast, suitcase still in hand, phone in the other. You have lost your mind, she said before the door even closed. Do you even realize what you've done? You hired someone to stalk me? To invade my privacy? Her voice was sharp, manic, like she'd been rehearsing on the flight. I stayed seated. Sit down. She dropped the suitcase, pointed at me. You can't just spy on people because you're insecure. Frank spoke softly. Sabrina, sit down. She looked at him stunned. You too? Oh my God, you're taking his side? I slid the folder toward her. You said girls trip. She froze. Looked at the folder but didn't touch it. What is that? Proof, I said. She crossed her arms. I don't need to see your little fantasy project. You've been paranoid for months. Open it. She hesitated, then flipped it open like it might bite her. The photos slid out. Cafe lunches, the travel agency, the airport. Her face changed in small flickers. Shock, denial, anger, then landed on arrogance. He's a client, she said quickly. You don't know context. You think you've solved some mystery, but you just look pathetic. Client? I said. Traveling with a client to Milan? She scoffed. You don't understand business relationships. He handles contracts for a remodel we're pitching. Frank rubbed his forehead. Stop. Look at what you're saying. She turned on him, voice rising. Dad, you don't know everything. He's twisting this. He's obsessed with control. He's always been like this. Lydia tried to step in. Sweetheart, Sabrina cut her off. No, Mom. This is ridiculous. He changed passwords, locked me out of my own house, and now he's spying on me? Who does that? She still had her key. She just used it to walk in. I kept my voice even. Someone who got tired of being lied to. She laughed. Short, sharp, completely unhinged. You're unbelievable. You think you're some detective now? What, you sat at home playing CSI while I was trying to live my life? You were living several, I said. I just picked one. She leaned forward, sneering. You always wanted control. Well, congratulations. You have it. The empty house, the passwords, the bank accounts. You win. Happy? I didn't win, I said. I just stopped losing. Her tone snapped from anger to condescension in an instant. You're acting like a victim, Connor. You made me miserable. You're cold. You're impossible to please. You overanalyze everything. No woman could live like that. Then it's a good thing you found alternatives, I said. Her face flushed. You're disgusting. Frank's voice cut through again, low and tired. Sabrina, enough. But she wasn't done. No, Dad, I'm not done. He destroyed our marriage. He should be ashamed. I reached under the folder, pulled out a second stack of papers, and slid a courtesy copy across the table. You were served this afternoon. These are your copies. Divorce papers. Everything's clean. No tricks, no payback. You keep your car and personal accounts. I keep the house and business. It's equal. She didn't look at them, just laughed again. You actually had papers drawn up while I was gone? That's psychotic. I had facts, I said. Paperwork was easy. You think this makes you look strong? She said, tone dripping with sarcasm. You look pathetic. You look like a man who can't handle not being worshipped. I leaned back, calm. I'm just done getting shocked. That shut her up for half a second. Then she exploded. You'll regret this. I'll take you for everything. You think you're safe behind your little contracts and locks? Watch me. She grabbed her suitcase, stomped toward the door, and turned one last time. You're gonna miss me when your boring little life collapses. The door slammed so hard the coffee cup on the table rattled. Silence followed. Lydia sat still, eyes wet. Frank just sighed, long and heavy. You okay? He asked quietly. I nodded, reached for my cup, and took a sip. The coffee was cold. System failure confirmed, I said. Frank almost smiled. That's one way to put it. I closed the folder, placed it back on the table, and leaned back in the chair. The noise was gone. The power was steady again. On 2 months after she stormed out, a thick envelope showed up in my mailbox. Petition for spousal support, filed by Lance Brower, attorney at law. I didn't even open it at first. I just stood at the counter, reading the bold letters on the front like they were printed in another language. When I finally flipped through it, the tone was exactly what I expected. Arrogant, dramatic, full of buzzwords. She was claiming financial isolation, emotional abuse, and invasion of privacy. According to the paperwork, I'd cut her off from joint assets and created a hostile environment. Lance Brower had a reputation in town. Loud tie, louder mouth. The kind of guy who thought every case was a headline. His letter ended with, "My client reserves the right to seek full compensation for emotional distress and lost lifestyle opportunities." Lost lifestyle opportunities. That one almost made me laugh. I called Marla Grant, a lawyer recommended by one of my commercial clients. She met me at her office that afternoon. Quiet room, no drama, no ego. Just a legal pad, a black pen, and calm eyes that never blinked too fast. After she skimmed the petition, she looked up. "Classic Lance," she said. "All noise. No grounding." "Can he actually make any of that stick?" I asked. "Your prenup separates the LLC and its accounts," she said, tapping the binder. "The payroll ledger shows why you moved funds, and the household account stayed live. That's not financial isolation. And not if your records are clean," she added. "And they look clean." She flipped through the stack of invoices and tax returns I'd brought. "You've got every receipt, every payment, every check logged." "I run an HVAC business," I said. "If something's off, the system tells you." She smiled slightly. "Same principle applies here. Truth doesn't shout, Connor. It stacks." That was all I needed to hear. Over the next 2 months, Sabrina's side threw everything they could. Lance filed motion after motion. Temporary support, asset discovery, claims of marital intimidation. Each one thicker than the last. He even tried to subpoena my work records, claiming I was hiding cash income. Marla handled every shot like a technician swapping a fuse. Calm, precise, efficient. At one point, she called me into her office with a small smile. "He says you underreported income by 15%. Did he check the math?" I asked. "He didn't need to. He just needed to say it out loud." I handed her a binder. Every invoice, every deposit, every tax return, all logged. She scanned it. "You really do keep everything? Electricians can't afford guessing," I said. Sabrina escalated fast. She demanded alimony, half the house, and a percentage of my business. She claimed she'd helped me grow it by managing the home and supporting brand development. I didn't even know what that meant. Lance filed another motion accusing me of monitoring her communications because I'd changed the Wi-Fi password. When that didn't get traction, they shifted to emotional control. Marla looked over the new claim and sighed. "She's trying to make you the villain in her movie. She's been filming it for years," I said. Marla gathered her files. "Let's give her an ending." Court started on a rainy Thursday morning. By then, her spousal support petition had been rolled into the divorce case, so I was the respondent. Sabrina walked in first, heels clicking like gunfire, Lance at her side. He looked exactly how I pictured. Shiny suit, fake tan, and a grin that belonged on a billboard. Marla leaned over. Let him talk himself into a corner. "Not hard," I said. When the judge entered, the room settled. Lance stood, chest puffed, and started his speech. Words like manipulation, financial strangulation, psychological control. He painted her as a trapped wife in need of rescue. She dabbed her eyes on cue, wearing beige-like innocence came in fabric form. When it was our turn, Marla stood up slowly, organized her papers, and began stacking truth, one fact at a time. "Your Honor, we'll be brief. We have documented income records, tax returns, and a third-party investigation proving my client's statements are factual. The business accounts are separate under a prenup," Marla said. "Bank statements show the joint household account remained funded, and the transfer Mr. Cole made was documented for payroll and vendors." She handed over Vance's reports. The surveillance photos, the time-stamped entries, the receipts. Each piece went into the record with quiet precision. Lance tried to object, claiming privacy invasion. Marla didn't even look at him. "Your client's privacy doesn't extend to an international vacation with a male companion she claimed was a business associate." The judge raised an eyebrow. "Is there documentation?" "There is," Marla said, sliding over the photo from the travel agency and the airport gate. The silence that followed was thick enough to weigh the room down. Over the next 2 sessions, Lance tried everything, twisting language, pushing emotional angles. Sabrina sat beside him, whispering and shaking her head like she was the victim of a grand conspiracy. Every time Marla presented evidence, Sabrina's eyes got wider, then narrower, then blank. When my turn came to testify, I kept it short. I explained the separation of finances, the Wi-Fi password changes, the bank accounts, the basic facts. No emotion, just how I'd secure any system that was showing faults. Lance tried to rattle me. "So you admit you changed passwords to prevent your wife from accessing her own home?" "I changed passwords to prevent access to accounts tied to my business," I said. "She had her own." "So you monitored her?" "I fixed the router." The courtroom chuckled. Even the judge cracked a small smile. Then came Hector and Miguel. They testified about my character, how I was calm, fair, never controlling. Hector said, "The guy barely raises his voice when I short a wire. He just fixes it." Frank and Lydia took the stand last. You could tell it tore them up, but they told the truth. Lydia said quietly, "We love our daughter, but we saw the photos. We know what happened." Frank added, Connor's not cruel. He's just done. On the third day, everything came apart for Sabrina. Lance was pressing the financial angle again, calling me vindictive. She snapped mid-sentence, stood up and started shouting. This is insane. He ruined my life. He stalked me, humiliated me, and now everyone thinks I'm some villain because he can't handle being left alone. The judge's gavel hit hard. Mrs. Cole, sit down. But she kept going, voice cracking. You all buy this act? He's manipulative. He's cold. He's a robot. He made me feel small for years. Her lawyer tried to pull her arm. She yanked away. Don't touch me. You said we'd destroy him. Where is that, Lance? The judge banged the gavel again. Enough. The room went silent except for the sound of her breathing. Short, furious gasps. I just sat there, calm, steady, like watching a breaker overload in slow motion. Marla leaned in and whispered, we just won. 2 hours later, the session ended. The court's calendar pushed closings 6 weeks out, but it was already decided in everything but paperwork. Everyone knew it. Outside, the air was clean and cool after the rain. I walked across the courthouse lot to my van, the same one I'd driven for 10 years. My hands were shaking a little. Not from nerves, just the kind of release that hits when the current finally evens out. I leaned on the door, looked at the sky, and exhaled. The current's steady again. Just took a few breakers to trip. 6 weeks later, we were back in court for the final hearing. No theatrics this time. Sabrina sat 2 rows ahead, posture stiff, eyes forward, pretending not to see me. Lance looked deflated, his usual swagger replaced with the quiet shuffle of a man who knew the script was over. When the judge came in, the room straightened, papers shuffled, pens clicked, and the verdict came down like the flip of a main switch. Divorce granted, the judge said. No spousal support awarded. The petitioner, he nodded towards Sabrina, shall contribute to respondents' reasonable attorney's fees under the court's sanctions authority for bad faith filings and needless motions. Lance's face didn't move, but Sabrina's went pale. Property division is final. The house, business, and accounts remain the respondent's property. He tapped his papers once, signaling it was done. Next case. That was it. No music, no speeches. Just a quiet end to something that had already been over. Outside the courthouse, Sabrina exploded. Cameras weren't there, but she acted like they were. You ruined my life, she shouted, storming down the steps. You took everything from me. I stayed by the rail, calm. You crossed your own wires, I said. I just stopped fixing them. That only made her angrier. She turned to her mother, who stood nearby, but Lydia wouldn't meet her eyes. Frank kept a firm hand on her shoulder, guiding her toward their car. When they drove off, the silence finally settled in. I walked to my van, unlocked the door, and sat for a moment. The air felt lighter, like the static had finally drained from the system. Later that week, I met Vance for coffee, our unofficial debrief. He was his usual quiet self, old notebook in hand. Got a side note you'll want, he said. The guy from Milan. Darren, right? Yeah. Company found out about the trip. He charged the tickets to a corporate card, called it client development. HR moved fast, suspended him that day, then fired him a week later. I raised an eyebrow. That was fast. Gets better, Vance said. He's married. His wife filed for separation 2 days after the news broke. He packed up and moved to Colorado. I let out a slow breath. Guess the upgrade didn't last long. Vance closed the notebook. People who start in lies usually end in silence. He left cash for his coffee and nodded once. That was our version of a handshake. The next few weeks were quiet in a way that felt earned. The shop picked up business. Word had spread that I was reliable, fair, no nonsense. Miguel said customers liked that I didn't talk much. Hector said it was because I didn't fake smiles. Whatever it was, it worked. Calls came in steady, invoices paid on time, no drama. My life had trimmed itself down to clean wiring and clear air. Then one night, an email pinged my inbox. Subject, you didn't have to destroy me. Sabrina. The message was short. You could have ended things quietly. You didn't have to make me look like a monster. You didn't have to ruin my name. I stared at it for a minute, then typed my reply. I didn't destroy you. You mistook consequences for cruelty. I hit send and archived the thread. That was the last time we ever spoke. Work became the anchor again. Early mornings, full schedules, real problems that could be solved with logic instead of guessing. Thermostats, circuit boards, wiring faults, things that made sense. One morning, I was finishing a job at a small bakery when someone called my name. I turned and saw Camilla, the woman who ran the flower shop next door. I'd fixed her cooler months back. She smiled and handed me a coffee. Thought you might need this, she said. You look like a man who forgets lunch. Sometimes, I said. She didn't ask about the case, didn't mention Sabrina, didn't pry. She just talked about her new supplier, a cat that kept sneaking into the shop. The usual. Simple. Steady. We started seeing each other for coffee once a week after that. No labels, no expectations. Just quiet conversation and peace that didn't demand attention. One evening, I sat in the garage with the door half open, watching the sun drop behind the trees. The air smelled like sawdust and rain. I'd just finished rewiring an old fan. A small job, but it felt symbolic. I thought about everything that had happened. The yelling, the files, the hearings, the silence after. It all came down to one truth I'd learned on the job. Electricity doesn't care who's at fault. It just finds the easiest path to ground. That's what I did. I stopped fighting current that wasn't mine. Inside, my phone buzzed with a new service request. I turned off the light, Close the garage and let the house settle into its quiet hum. Peace doesn't hum loud, but when it does, you know the current's finally clean.